changes and even changing of the seasons, that is either burnt out or atrophied to the extent where then it's just a slow dwindle. If you're living off the land, you degenerate very quickly. You get recycled and decomposted very quickly. We live in a sheltered Western world where we have modern medicine that keep people alive for a long time and indoors. So you can see it very much stretches out. And so that's the plant. That's one aspect of plant medicine, and I feel it's the tonic herbs. I talk about these tonic herbs. Underneath the tonic herb banner, there's, as I said, there's mushrooms, there's barks, there's roots. There's animal products, there's mineral products. We have orchids, we have berries, different types of herbs, herbal medicine, plant medicines, and then under those plant medicines are classifications from a Western model, whether it's anti-analgesic, anti-inflammatory, whether it's an expectorant, an emmenagogue, and then an adaptogen. And so the adaptogenic word gets thrown out a lot. I just want to bring some context to that because that's where the classification comes into effect. And adaptogen being generally tonic herbs or adaptogens, but the tonic herb conversation is bigger and has a little less, hoo-ha around it in the marketing world. Adaptogens are just going to save the day for everything, at the moment in the way they've been marketed. And to an extent, the herbs I work with a lot are adaptogenic, but I don't work with them because they're adaptogens. I work with them because they're tonic, and that context changes everything in the way that we intentionally integrate them into our lifestyle. But adaptogens and tonic herbs, the way they're classified as herbs that don't, when taken in appropriate dosage, don't bring any further harm or stress upon the body. They are multi-directional, so they can move in the direction that generally that the body would like to go in. They're not aggressive in pushing, say, the nervous system down or cortisol down or cortisol up, thyroid producing hormone up or down. It's it can generally work with what the body's going to need to come into homeostasis. And likewise, to an extent, with autoimmune conditions and medicinal mushrooms, you'll see that's a bigger conversation, but generally they're going to be working on that line of the immunity and the immune system that isn't where the immune system is attacking itself, but nourishing that's a dendritic cell line of the immune system and nourishing it, so then the immune system over time can bring itself back into balance. And then that third tier of an adaptogen classification is they need to have an accumulative effect within the body. So the longer you take it, the longer you're accumulating that medicine of those beautiful plants.
So just to clarify some of the terms that you've just thrown out, because I'm pretty new to plant medicine, so some of the things I was like, I don't know what that means. So you're saying that superior herbs are the same as tonic herbs. Are they interchangeable terms? Okay, cool.
Yes. So superior herbs is a translation from a very old materia medica, especially.
Yep. And then adaptogens come underneath that bracket of that umbrella.
Like an adaptogen, it'd be like a Western classification of a herb. Like in the same way you could, from a TCM, traditional Chinese medicine perspective, you would say, like ginseng is a heating herb, and then you'd go, right, so it's a qi tonic. Okay, so there's classifications, and then over on the Western side of things, you'd see it. Okay, it's a stimulating herb, and it is an adaptogenic herb.
Yep. Yep. So it's just different words for the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about a few of the different herbs you mentioned, or medicinal mushrooms even? Because I've heard about, for example, medicinal mushrooms a lot lately, about microdosing, and I guess just some of the questions.
Well, I'll make the distinction really quickly. So medicinal mushrooms aren't psilocybin mushrooms; they're not psychedelic. Okay. So there's three tiers, and I'll just so you can go on. But I'd like you to love to hear the rest of your question, but I'll just make that quick classification. We say there's 3 tiers of types of mushroom. We've got culinary mushrooms that grow in the ground. Then we have psychedelic mushrooms and microdosing is a big thing with psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin, golden top, so on at the moment, which I really love that conversation as well, but it's not what I deal with directly. But then we got the medicinal mushrooms. Generally, these mushrooms grow on trees, and these are ones non-psychedelic, have deep immune medicine and adaptogenic qualities. Yeah.
Cool. Did you want to tell us a bit more about the mushrooms that you're particularly passionate about at the moment?
Yes. So yeah, the medicinal mushrooms are a class of herbs. Some of the ones that are really grown in popularity and usage in the Western world, which is wonderful because they're so effective. Chaga mushroom, which is like a black charcoal growing on a birch tree, pretty much growing in temperate zones. It's known as a sclerotia, that fruiting body. Then we've got reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom is kind of like a red disc, a red love heart, red UFO growing out the side of trees there, living trees. So there's an example of those mushrooms growing on living trees. Reishis, for example, can also grow on dead wood. And these mushrooms get in and decompose the wood and break that down. At the same time, they're recyclers of the forest. We have cordyceps mushroom, not a tree-growing mushroom. It's a parasitic mushroom that in the wild gets into insects and caterpillars and so on and so forth, and then gets them into position and then turns it inside out into the mushroom itself. And so they're very, very expensive. That's why there's not much of an industry around them. So then we've got liquid fermented cultivation methods that we partake in. And lion's mane mushroom, huge at the moment. The smart mushroom, brain nourishing, neuro regeneration, using this herb with nerve growth factor and many other growth factors within it to help build and maintain, maybe not build, but really maintain the grey and white matter. And so the grey matter in which these nerve endings reside, in the white matter with which the synapses are created, again creating the environment in which new nerve pathways can be created within the brain, so the brain stays adaptable, it stays plastic, as they say it, and then it's like neuroplasticity's been pretty hot, especially in the entrepreneurial world and in the health scene at the same time, and rightfully it should. That's a huge mushroom at the moment, a big white, looks like a lion's mane, like white tentacles falling off the tree there. Very beautiful. And then many others, poria, maitake, shiitake, turkey tail. These are the ones that are really coming to the forefront, and the world's going crazy on them. And I think it's a really timely. I mean, I've been sourcing medicinal mushrooms, offering medicinal mushrooms through SuperFeast. SuperFeast, I started in 2011, way before mushrooms got very trendy, making sure that I'm sourcing wild, if possible, semi-wild if I can't, to ensure that those herbs are growing on wood, first of all, on a growing medium that is their native food, and that they've been exposed to the elements and to the wild and to places, growing environments where they want to grow. It's called detail. It's a way of sourcing herbs that the herbs from their original place has a lot to do with their energetics. And so I've seen over the last 2 years that all of a sudden the conversation around medicinal mushrooms and the offering of them to the market and to the community has just really been taken up, all around the world. And there's a few reasons, I think, because they work big time. They work big time for many things, which I'll get into, which is people in the health scene have been going around in circles using many different types of supplements, getting some maybe short-term gains and then kind of hitting that glass ceiling, as is often the way with a supplement. We're talking about a whole herb or a full spectrum herb extract, done in simple ancient ways like extracting it in water, if appropriate, extracting it in alcohol. So basically you got a tea and a tincture, and then concentrating that down to a powder. You don't have it's not a standardized, we're getting this compound out, we want to make sure it's this standardized, 30% polysaccharide and then this much triterpene, so on and so forth. It's just like however that herb, it wants to bring out the medicines in the solvent of water and alcohol, that's the matrix, and then get into a powder and then get that, getting it into the lifestyle. It's really connected to something bigger, and it's not just taking this supplement anymore that doesn't have a story behind it and doesn't allow people to connect to it for the long term. In the sense that people are wanting to connect with things. Same with smart drugs. The synthetic smart drugs that are coming out that are nootropic and that help bring more circulation to the cerebral cortex and to the brain in general, bring more activity. And if they're synthetic, they're not going to be synergistic with the body's energetics in the long term, and there will be symptoms. With herbs, especially with herbs extracted in a non-controlled kind of sense, Western pharmaceutical sense, you can connect to the story of that herb, and you can connect to the personality of that herb. Even better so if you're going out and harvesting them yourself, doing the drying yourself, or the creating the tincture. I mean, I've got in my tonic herb game at the moment, I've gone and just got a bunch of gotcha cola from my garden where it's prolifically growing. Beautiful brain herb, and then I've got some Malian, which is just a magic lung herb. That is just like I saw it for the first time in Portland last year in Oregon. I just hadn't really tuned in with it. Used the oil of Malian in my ears here and there. Got it in my first day keeper. Just didn't really get used that much because I wasn't connected. I saw it in a walk through Portland, Oregon. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is that herb? It's like, it's furry and perfectly unfurling from a center point, this little shrub, and try it, a little bit mucilaginous, just so alive, and you could just feel it was just saying lungs. And I'd forgotten that it was a lung tone. I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel breathing easy here, just looking at this herb. And so then while my partner and I were doing a road trip up from Sydney, inland from Sydney to Byron Bay, we went for a little walk at this winery, and sure enough, there it was, growing and prolifically around this garden. And so we picked a whole lot, hung it up, dried it out, and then boom, that's in there with my gotcha cola. And then I also had some horsetail that I love horsetail. It's that grass for the kidneys and bone strength, and silica magic, and so on and so forth. I've just got those and stuffed those in a jar as much as possible, covered that with organic vodka, and then weighed it down so it stays submerged. And so it just gives some context in terms of, that same intention that I have with, getting my medicinal mushroom powders the way I'm sourcing from SuperFeast. It's that same intention that connects me to go and harvest myself and keep my apothecary growing within myself. And then, by the way, with that tincture, I'm about to just tonight, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the herbs from the menstruum, the liquid medium, strain it out, press it, get all that juice out, and then I'm going to throw it into a tea, and I'm going to make a tea, and then I'm going to reduce that tea down and mix that back in with the alcohol and make a big jewel extract of those medicines. And I'm going to give a bunch of that to my mum when I go down for Mother's Day. She's got a brain injury. Wanted to get that gotcha cola in it. It's a little bit of like lung stuff within our family line that I just want to stay on top of. And so the Malian is always relevant. Horsetail just always great. So that's the same thing that gets me doing that is the same thing, that reason I'm thankful to be able to have like a medicinal mushroom powder and add that to my hot chocolate or my tonic or my soup or my miso or whatever it is. It's integrating into my kitchen. It's got a story. The medicine present, the energetics are present, And so it's not just about this, here, you got this symptom, take this. And, just scoff it down, that'll deal with your symptoms. And then, and then off you pop, which has been the way of the health scene heavily over the last couple of decades. We're very allopathic. And so I see medicinal mushies are getting really hot right now because people can see they're going to be able to, I'm going to be able to integrate this intention I have for my immune system, my organs, and my nervous system, over the very long term. And right now, medicinal mushrooms are like hitting that intention really hard. They're an external match for that intention and that desire that the world has to be connected internally once more. And The mushrooms are unifiers. They unify the forest, and they nourish the extracellular fluid and the fascia of our body and the nervous system and the communication channels within our body. So photons and chi and information and emotions can pass more freely through energy channels from organ to organ, from inner to outer immune system, from nervous